Well, and that group got them within one win of the perfect season. But after that loss, once again, it is still Indiana in 1976, the last national champion to go wire to wire. Over the last 45 years, 4 teams have entered the Final Four unbeaten. And as you see, none of them got there. And so here he is, my Uncle Seth, no relation to break it all down, Seth Greenberg. And listen, you were telling me before we came on the air, Baylor, that is one unbelievably tough bunch of dudes. What's your number one takeaway from their win last night?
They were bigger, stronger, quicker, more athletic, longer, and they dominated the game. They dominated on the glass. They were plus 10 on the glass. I mean, think about this. They had 18 more shots than Gonzaga. They dominated it defensively, getting them up and underneath Gonzaga, pushing them out, getting deflection. And then they dominated from the three-point line. I mean, they made 5 more threes than Gonzaga. This was a dominant performance by this Baylor team. They were just tougher. I mean, think about this, Greeny. Mark Vidal had 8 offensive rebounds. 8 offensive rebounds. That's 3 more than the whole Gonzaga team. And the first play of the game told the whole story. Baylor gets the ball, shot goes up, they rebound and miss. Shot goes up, they rebound and miss. Shot goes up, they rebound and miss. Message sent, message received. They were just bigger, stronger, and tougher.
Yeah, bigger, stronger, tougher, and just flat better, which you know will make people out there say, Gonzaga, with that gaudy record, came from a lesser conference, and they looked like they were outplayed last night. What is the right way to remember this Gonzaga team from this season?
They're a historic offensive team. It is hard to win a national championship. It's hard to go undefeated. Baylor is a very good basketball team. The other guys trying to win as well. They had an incredible season. I always say life is a journey, not a destination. There are roadblocks and detours. They finally faced a detour. That detour was called Baylor. Baylor was just better. And I think if they played 10 times, I think Baylor would win 8 of them. They were just better. They were better in the backcourt. They were a better rebounding team. They were a better defensive team. They dominated the game. But it shouldn't take away from the journey. It shouldn't take away from a historic season, especially this year in a COVID situation. But they're not the national champions. That's Baylor. They were good, but not good enough.
Yeah, Baylor might very well have won it last year had we had a tournament. Yeah. They looked like the best team in the country, and they come back and they do it here. Seth, what a season it's been. What a night it was. Thank you so much for getting up early after a very late night. History will say this was an upset, but the eye test certainly didn't look that way. What did you take away from Baylor's convincing win?
Look, Greeny, I could sit there and I could talk about how physical they were from the start, how they got offensive rebounds, and go dive into X's and O's. Let's take a wider perspective to this thing. Had there been a 2020 NCAA tournament, Baylor would have been my favorite to win the national championship. The guards that we saw last night would have been on the floor a year ago. If they were coming into this tournament as the defending national champions and had already won the national championship, the narrative, I think, would have been completely different heading into last night's game. This team had separated itself along with Gonzaga all year long, and their defense and their toughness, that showed out last night. And Mitchell, Teague, and Butler were sensational. They're the best backcourt in college basketball, and last night they dominated on the biggest of stages.
Absolutely. And so how do we put into perspective this Gonzaga team and its season under all of the circumstances to be unbeaten right up to the last game? How do you remember this Gonzaga team going forward?
Look, there's going to be the conversation. Well, if they played in the Big 12 or they played in the Big 10, they probably would have been undefeated. And you're probably right. But they played the schedule they played, and you go back and look at who they beat in the non-conference, who they beat on their path to the national championship game. This team is going to go down in the likeness of the 4 teams that you just showed in the last 45 years that entered the NCAA tournament undefeated, but then came up short. It's an elite level team. This shouldn't be diminished by the fact that Baylor dominated them last night from the start of the game all the way through the end. It's incredible talent. We're lucky to see Jalen Suggs in college basketball. He's going to be a top 3 pick in June's NBA draft. I personally would take him at number 1. I think he's going to be an all-star. Corey Kispert's going to be a first-round pick. Drew Timme, probably a late first-round pick. Incredible talent for Mark Few and an incredible run, especially given the circumstances of being in a global pandemic and fighting their way through COVID-19.
Wow. Sean Farnham says Jalen Suggs over Cade Cunningham. Put that on Twitter fast. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.